Jason Fenwick. I'm the director of the Business Advisory Group at Windsor Wyatt & Ward. Windsor Wyatt & Ward is a full-service business advisory firm dedicated to growing your business. Thank you for joining us tonight for our Business Mastery series entitled The 5 Phases of a Successful Startup. Tonight we're going to be focusing on Phase 2, funding. That's always a favorite run because everyone wants us to show them the money. That's where everyone comes in. They've read the Wall Street Journal, they've listened to CNBC, they've read Forbes, and they hear there's a ton of money out there and that the money is just waiting for them to come get it. That's where we come in. We're here to talk to you today about how to put together a plan to go take down some of that funding. During Phase 2 funding, during the funding phase, there are a couple things that you need to be concerned about. The first is the purpose of the funding stage. What the investors are looking for, and how to put it all together. We're going to talk about that tonight. So, the very first thing that you want to see in a funding request is the financial needs are explained of the company. We want to know that you've done an expense budget, revenue projections, accounted for cash flow factors, and addressed cash reserves. So let's start with the first one, an expense budget. While you cannot accurately project revenue, you can accurately reflect and project expenses. Some of the rookie mistakes that we see are people that list their expenses the same month in and month out. So they list they're going to spend $5,000 in January, February, March, April. And it's the same number just repeating itself throughout the entire process. That's a rookie mistake. The one thing we know is that there aren't that many fixed costs in startups, and the majority of the costs are in variable expenses. And variable expenses are never the same. They come, they go, they're up, they're down, and it's based on usage. And in the startup phase, usage is oftentimes much heavier than in other phases of the company's operations. So, you have to be able to accurately project your expenses. We don't care what your expenses are. What we do care is that you know what your expenses are. Because if you don't, and we can figure that out, you're not getting any money. And that's it. That's the end of the game. The second part is revenue projections. Another rookie mistake in this particular category is where people list the same revenue month after month after month for the first 18 months. We're going to make $120,000 in January, February, March, etc. That's another thing we know. We know that revenue normally ramps up. Very rarely do you go from zero to a large number. If you're going to go to, if 120,000 is your target revenue amount at the end of 6 months, we know that that money may be coming at the end of 6 months, but that in January, the first month, that the revenue is going to be, 8,000, 12,000, 28,000, 43. What we're looking for is that you've accurately projected it, and we're also looking for what the increments of growth are. In looking at the revenue projection, it also tells us what the sales cycle is for your particular product or service. The sales cycle is how many times a person has to touch your particular product or service in order to get to the point of making a sale. So it's a cycle from introduction to purchase. That's the time frame we're looking for. All three of these things come together and indicate what the cash flow factors are. It tells us where the company's going to need money, when the company's going to need money, and how much the company's going to need. These are critically important because all too often the cash flow is the main thing that chokes a company. The difference between success and failure. You've often heard the adage that the majority of the companies fail for lack of capital. I personally don't believe that. My belief is that the majority of companies fail for lack of capital planning. They haven't planned accurately how to use their capital. They haven't accurately planned for their sales cycle and their revenue projections and their budgeting of expenses. This is where we want to help you. And then lastly, there's cash reserves. The cash reserves tell us how much cash you need on hand in order to continually operate until such time as revenue kicks in. The cash reserves are critical and can be expressed in months, i.e. the number of months of working capital that you need, 9 months, 11 months, 12 months, or can be expressed in terms of capital expenditures. This is how much we're going to be spending, and this is what we're going to be spending it on. The second phase of funding is where a clear funding plan is developed. Here we answer the basic questions. How much do you need? When do you need it? How do you need it? i.e. what increments? Where is the money coming from? Debt or equity? And who's putting money in? So let's go through this a little bit slower. How much you need? If you've done the right thing in terms of your expense budget, your cash flow, accounting for your cash flow factors, and addressing your cash reserve needs, the how much should be easy. It's the total. The when you need it is critical. So you come in and you say, look, I need $1.2 million for first round funding. And this is what we're going to spend the $1.2 million on. We're going to spend $800,000 on capital equipment, $200,000 for 6 months worth of working capital, and $200,000 in marketing. And there are some other factors, but that's a general overview. The next question is, well, when do you need it? All too often we hear rookie entrepreneurs telling us, well, I need it tomorrow, yesterday. When can you get it to me? That's really not what a funder is looking for. They're looking for a schedule. They're looking for you to tell them, well, I need this amount on March 1st. I'll need this amount on June 1st. Or if you need it all at once, you need to tell them why you need it once. And then what your secondary needs will be, when you'll come back for more funding. So let's say you need $1.2 million. The question becomes, do you need one check for $1.2 million? Or do you need 4 checks for $300,000 spread out quarterly? 2 checks for $600,000 spread out semi-annually? Those are the questions that the funders are going to want to know. Then they want to know where you're getting the money from. How much is coming from capital infusion of equity for equity? How much is coming from debt? Who the bankers are and who the investors are. And then lastly, they want to know why you need the money, what you're going to use it for, and also who's involved, how much you're putting up. All too often we get rookie entrepreneurs come in and they think there's a secret pot of money out there that the government has for them, that they'll fund their entire business. Or that there are angel investors or VCs waiting to give them everything, and that they don't have to put anything up. That's just usually not the case. There's got to be some type of investment by the founders so that they have some skin in the game. What investors want to know is that they're not the only one in the game, that they're not the only one risking their capital. After you've done that, now we get to the stage that's investor prep. This is where you put together the investment parameters, the return on the ROI, the return on investment, the timetable for investment, the timetable for return, and all the other factors that go into a decision by the investor to put money into your company. You also outline the risk factors that are associated with investing in the company. Every company has risk factors. Yours is no different. And so it's better to divulge those risk factors right up front, because a sophisticated investor is not going to believe that your business is a surefire bet. They want to discuss the risk. They're comfortable taking the risk, but what really makes them comfortable is the fact that you know what the risks are and are able to openly discuss them. During the investor prep phase, an investor deal sheet is prepared. An investor deal sheet is an overview of the deal. No one wants to read your 568-page business plan. What they want is an overview, just to see if they're interested in what you have to offer and where your company is going. The overview is key because it allows them to quickly assess what the parameters of the deal are, what's in it for them. And then, if they want to read your 568-page business plan, they can assign someone to do that. Inside this investor deal sheet, everything is laid out in a summarized form. It takes them to a summary of the selected financing. It takes them to a summary of the description of the opportunity of the business, how it's organized, etc. In it, you can get great buy-in because they want the overview. They want to know where the ship's going. They don't need to know all the details. After you've done an investor deal sheet, your investors are identified and qualified. One of the key things to keep in mind is not everyone's money is good money. What that means is not everyone's a good fit, even if they have the money that you want for the long-term and short-term goals that you have for your company. So you need to be very selective as to who you pick as an investor. This is critical that they share not only the same outlook on the opportunity, but the same timetable for the return. Nothing is worse than having an investor who wanted to get his money out after a year, and it's a 2-year or 3-year deal, and they're hounding you the entire time to sell or take shortcuts. You have to know that the investor is on board with what you're looking for. The other thing is it has to be a good fit. When you're sitting there looking at selling a part of your company, remember, it's kind of like a marriage. Once you give it away, it's not easy to get it back. You can't just say, hey, you know what, we're not getting along, can I have my equity back? And all too often in business, when there's an ugly breakup, it generally ends up costing money. So you want to avoid these things by having detailed conversations with the potential investors and then turning them over to an unbiased third party such as myself who can qualify them for you. Here's the key when you're qualifying investors. You want to pick up how their management style is, what their purpose and role will be in the company. And then lastly, you also want to qualify the money. I can't tell you the number of times that I've gone in to discuss a potential investment where the investor and the principals of the company are ready to sign a business deal, ready to sign the contract. And I asked a couple simple questions and I realized this investor has never been properly qualified. So here are some of the secrets that I'm going to tell you. The first is you want to know from the investor what's the source of funding. In these instances where the investor wasn't qualified, they had shaky sources of funding. Well, I'm going to talk to my brother and my cousin, and I think we'll be able to put together a pool of money that'll help people, help out the principals of the company. That's not really what we want to hear. We want to know that the money's sitting somewhere, just waiting to be invested. Whether it's in a trust fund, a trust account, a 401k, or just a regular bank account, a company account, whatever, we want to know that it's in a liquid form. The one thing we're also on the alert for is making sure that the money isn't contingent upon another deal closing. I've seen too many deals fall apart where the money for investment was contingent upon me selling this real estate, me closing this other deal, selling the business. There are a million different contingencies. We want to make sure that when you're looking at investors, that your money isn't contingent upon some other deal going through. Because in the last 5 years, there have been a lot of broken deals, whether it's based on the government shutting down, real estate properties tanking, credit tightening up, banks not loaning money as they normally would for working capital, etc. And a lot of deals have fallen apart because the investor wasn't qualified and the funds weren't qualified. Lastly, you want to put together a professional investor presentation. A lot of people are familiar with the show Shark Tank and have watched it, and they see the people come out and they talk about their particular product. The reality is this. When you go to a venture capital breakfast or meeting, you got 7 to 11 minutes to fully explain your idea. It needs to be fluid. It needs to be on point. It needs to be professional. You need to be prepped for that. You need to be able to answer all the questions they throw at you in a clear and concise way. And the best way to do that is to have someone who's gone through it ask you the questions and prepare you for it. And that's something we can help you with. When you're doing your presentations, you have to get to the point. You have to know what to present to the investors and know how to catch their interest. In that 7 to 11 minutes, it's Seems like a short time to a layperson, but it's a lifetime if a person's up there and they're just sucking at it. And there's nothing worse than watching someone struggle through that time period, only at the end to ask, well, can I do it again? And the answer is always, no, thanks, we got enough. We'll see you later. Next. It's kind of like American Idol. You get one shot to go in there and impress people. So you got to have it all put together in a package and able to answer the questions that the potential investors ask. These are the key points of the funding phase. If you need some assistance with this, please contact me. My name's Jason Fenwick. I'm the director of the Business Advisory Group at Windsor Wyatt & Ward. You can contact me at jfenwick@windsorwyatt.com. That's JFENWICK@WINDSORWYETH.com. Check out our website at windsorwyatt.com. You can also check out our other YouTube videos on this particular Business Mastery series or other presentations. Thanks for tuning in, and as always, we look forward to seeing you at the top. Have a great day.